There has been a brutal and terrible murder in China, and many people are asking me to comment on this, so here goes. Wherever you are in the world, welcome to another of my takes on China. Not a nice one. If anyone doesn't know the story, 3 boys bullied for a long time and then murdered a classmate. Then they buried him in a vegetable garden. The law in China is that kids can't be responsible. They can't be tried as they're too young to be culpable. And this has horrified many people. But that law is no different to many countries. The chief prosecutor in China can make a decision to try when the offender is over 12 but under 14, and these 3 offenders are 13 years old. So a decision will be made. It hasn't been made yet. I've been following this, and I understand many people are unhappy, but the law is the law. I can't change it, and I wouldn't attempt to. Kids under 11 in the UK can't be tried at all. Under 14, the law makes the decision. I don't know about US law, and I'm not going to look into it because I'm certain every state would have a different standard. But let's just say it's a normal procedure to consider kids' culpability when they are at a certain age, and it's normal to be unable to prosecute them under another age, as they may not understand their criminal responsibilities. Now, I'm not saying this is right or it's wrong. I'm just saying that this is what it is. Honestly, I wish it was different, but it isn't. The information has come to light because the police made arrests within a day of the event. The 3 boys, who are suspected of committing the crime, led the police to the vegetable patch and showed where the body was buried. The BBC, they reported that these were all left behind kids. In other words, their parents were in another city or province working as migrant workers. But then the BBC report went on to quote the victim's father saying he was expecting his son home and his son had complained to him of bullying before. So something isn't quite right about that story. But then that's the BBC. Always looking for the negative angle, as if this story wasn't negative enough, and they're looking for a way to make this China's fault. Now, I've said this many times that crime is almost non-existent in China, and I stand by that statement. Murders such as this happen literally every day in some countries, and one has now happened in China. The public are outraged, and rightly so. But think about the reality here. This is the first and only time this has happened in the last, I don't know how many years. If it had happened before, we would be sure that Western media would pick it up and run with it. But they don't pick up mass murders or horrific murders in their own countries because they're so commonplace there. They search China's Weibo to find out what's going on here. When horrific crimes happen in China, the West points and says, what an evil place it is. But I prefer to watch China's reaction to the situation. I'm certain there will be changes to the law at the next sitting of the 2 sessions because this has upset so many people. I'm also quite proud of the way people in China stand up and criticize the government for a law they don't like. This is something the West doesn't think Chinese people are allowed to do, yet they're reporting it's being done now. So, albeit a terrible example, this story validates my own videos more than any statistic or other example that I could give. Crime is low. When it happens, people are horrified. They get onto social media en masse, and they do exactly what Western media says they can't do. They criticize the government for a lack of action. But then, the government does exactly what the Western media also says they don't do, and they listen to the criticism. And being critical gets listened to by all government levels, so changes do get made. Let me quote to you the Global Times here to give you a real example of what's happening in China right now as a result of this case. Rumors and misinformation about this story are being removed from the internet because the following quote is what's really happening. And I quote, "Currently, people are waiting for the result of an official investigation on the Handan case. whether there was a failure of responsibility, and to what extent, on the part of the teachers, schools, and education authorities, should be held accountable in this case can only be determined through an official investigation. In any case, this incident is serious enough to awaken the public's attention to the deeper causes of school bullying, such as school mismanagement and mental health problems of minors. In the end, this will lead to the formation of a more effective prevention and control mechanism for juvenile delinquency. End of quote. Just think about how those few points completely defy the Western narrative of China. People are complaining, criticizing. People are demanding change, and already the government are looking at ways to make those changes. My heart goes out to the family of that boy. I've also lost a son just 3 years ago, not to such harrowing circumstances, but I know the pain they're going through. I can only tell them if they ever see this that it gets easier, but it never goes away. At least it hasn't yet. But for those people gaslighting on this incident and critical of China for being an evil place to allow such a thing to happen, just remind yourselves, in the US, there are worse killings than this on a very regular basis. In the UK, the last one I know of was about 20 years ago, the James Bulger case. The two killers were 10 years old when they were arrested and released from detention when they turned 18. And let's be honest, there are always going to be cases like this everywhere. But it's how society learns from them and moves on that matters the most. And that's all I have to say on this matter. Thanks once again for watching my take on China. And I'm sorry that that's such a harrowing story to tell, but I have been asked so many times, and I think it needed to be said. I'll see you next time anyway. Bye for now.